Good morning. Happy Workers' Day, everyone. And thank you for staying with us on Smooth 98.1. You're listening to Freshly Pressed 981. It's a segment where we'll give you detailed analysis of the newspaper stories this morning. And joining us to do just that is Adedumade at Adedumade on Twitter. Good morning, Adedumade.
Good morning, guys. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Lagos.
Happy holidays.
Same to you.
And Mr. G Quest is Gbolahan himself. Good morning, Gbolahan.
Good morning, Valentine, and good morning, Ayo.
Good
Good
morning to
Morning,
you.
Lagos.
And the Akuman himself is here live and present, Mr. Deveo Okorie. Good morning.
Good morning, Lagos. A cool female social workers.
All right. That's one of the stories that we'll be treating later on the show, Freshly Pressed 981. Use that hashtag to send in messages through Twitter, hashtag Freshly Pressed 981 on Twitter at Smooth91FM. Other ways, though.
Other ways, you can also send us a message on 0809 4440981. Very importantly today, because more people are probably in bed than on the road, so kindly go onto YouTube and check us out. If you've never experienced Freshly Pressed 981 visually, today is that day. Go to YouTube, Smooth 981, and search for us. We're live and we're streaming there. You can also send your comments through that platform as well.
And WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. The first story before us is for you, Gbolahan, from the Vanguard newspaper. It's a breaking news. Representatives jack up 2019 budget past 8.916 trillion naira. You recall that President Muhammadu Buhari had submitted 8.83 trillion naira 2019 budget to a joint session of the National Assembly in December 19 precisely of 2018. But then now they've increased it by 86 billion naira. What's the rationale behind this, Gbolahan?
Yes, once more, we are at this junction of our government where we find out that, of course, when the budget has been pushed through to the National Assembly has now made their own amendments to the budget. Just as you mentioned, the president did propose the bill of 8.83 trillion naira, but now we're finding out that the budget is coming out of the National Assembly over bloated by about another 86 billion naira. And of course, there were explanations given for the 86 billion naira. Part of it was money that have been appropriated for some relief aid in the northern part. I think it's in Nasarawa State or so that I gathered,
Okay.
about 23 billion. Then there's been some money allocated as well too for severance packages for the National Assembly members that were going to be leaving the National Assembly.
So now we asked that question, but hinging on that last comment you just
Yes.
made. 2 days ago, we are talking about the Bielsa story where the state representatives were clamoring for life pensions,
Yes.
to be passed into law,
Yes.
and including severance packages. So we know these governors, senators, lawmakers really have been receiving so much money in terms of allowances and then severance packages that come with them. But seeing that this has been infused in the budget, I mean, we are a country that have a large budget deficit. Debt profile is immense. Shouldn't we be saving more than spending more?
We should, of course.
What is the priority
I
here?
mean, we should be looking at the priorities. But unfortunately, when we look at the situation that we find ourselves in Nigeria anyway, a lot of people, and especially our leaders, are only looking out for the interest of themselves most times. When I ask the question, in what benefit is this increase? Is it towards the plight of the people? Is it towards education or any other means? No, it's not. It's just to serve their own purpose and their agenda. And I would like to mention as well so that we've had this issue in the past as well, where there was a debate whether the National Assembly members are actually allowed to tamper with the budget. I mean, I know the vice president was actually going to take this to court, but I don't know what the outcome of that situation is as a present now, if the National Assembly members are actually allowed to tamper with the budget, or they're just supposed to pass the budget just as the executives have proposed it, because they're the ones that are meant to be executing the budget.
All right. But what do you see happening here? After now that they've increased it by 86 billion naira, do you see it going back to the president and the president's assenting to this, or having
Well,
different
when you
opinion?
look at the time frame as well, we're talking about May now for this budget. Time is fast spent already, and the current National Assembly members are going to be leaving office anytime soon as well. So, I mean, I don't see the president declining this. I think this will go through in order to expedite the implementation of the budget, because time is fast spent and we need to move on with the budget as well. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of back and forth on this. I'm sure they're going to pass it, and the president would accent to it.
I wanted to answer that question quickly. The reps, the debate on whether they have the right to influence the budget or not, they do. Actually, they don't set the budget. The budget, the mandate of the executive. However, since our politics got infiltrated into all our government work, that's when the budget became a political matter. And even if they ask the executive to add projects in their favor, because without it, the reps who are to sign and affirm that budget will not sign it based on politics, then they do have that power. So unfortunately, that's how we play our politics. Winner takes all.
Unfortunately. From the Punch newspaper, let's go to this one, talking about police and security and the moves that they're making to rejig their system. The Police Service Commission members oppose the Inspector General's move to convert police officers to specialists. So apparently the Inspector General of Police, the acting Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has made moves or plan to convert 1,060 police officers from general duty to specialists. He countered or reversed the conversion of specialists that was initiated by the past IG. But this current move now has been opposed by a few commissioners represented by women, human rights groups, and organized private labor, private sector, and the media. They are saying that this goes against the statutes, that they're meant to be consulted before this decision is made. But your thoughts on this, Deveo?
Well, whatever. There's not much to this story, and it's just a case of whether they can convert from specialists to general service officers, and that was in a bid to increase the number of manpower that we have on ground. As you know, currently we have a figure of about 350,000, policing over 180 million people.
Now 201 million. According to yesterday.
Yes, according to yesterday. I mean, we've always known that. Now, as it is, it's been very bad. And what they're simply saying is that the IG should have been looking at recruitment instead of taking from the internal and converting. End of story. We need to get to where they're misbehaving. That's where we need to pick
You
on
can't
the
wait to
police.
get to that story.
All right, let's quickly take a comment or two. Someone, Ayinke asked on YouTube what our WhatsApp number is. It's 0809 444 0981. And then MI from Akoka here says, the productivity of the Nigerian workers is real. Oh, okay, no, that was earlier. So the budget passage wouldn't be news if the National Assembly didn't do the needful. These are the same lawmakers who are the highest paid in the world. A typical case of Nero having a feast while the rest of Rome burns. Equal Workers' Day.
Very interesting stories to treat on a Workers' Day. Now let's look at the currency. I smile at certain parts of this story, but I would like for you to go into more detail in your analysis of this story, Gbolahan. From this newspaper, Central Bank of Nigeria tightens noose on currency mutilation and counterfeiting in a continued move to impose stiff sanctions on commercial banks and individuals that dispense mutilated and counterfeit currencies, and generally to retrieve or withdraw mutilated notes, banknotes that are in wide circulation. They've put some penalties in place, saying that the responsibility for clean notes in circulation is not exclusively that of the central bank, rather a collaborative effort between them and banknote suppliers, including deposit money banks, to withdraw. One of the cheering parts that I know a lot of people will smile about is they're making moves to ensure that beyond just sanctions, that ATM machines only dispense clean, crisp notes. Your thoughts?
Yes, it's a welcome move. I mean, the governor, CBN governor, that's Mr. Godwin Emefiele, mentioned this during the unveiling of their bank's clean note policy, which we've been hearing about for quite a while now, that the CBN is looking at mopping up a lot of the dirty currencies or notes that we have in the system also. It's an excellent move, because sometimes when I look at it, I mean, you travel abroad, you see the way currencies are being handled and maintained as well. And there's some element of pride in having fresh, clean notes in your wallet. anytime.
I like that you mentioned that in
Yes.
your wallet,
Yes.
not necessarily in your bank account. But let's not look at that because it's not something you see on an everyday basis. But look at Nigerians. Shouldn't we be included in the responsibility metrics? Because we personally handle this cash. We personally trample on them at events where we spray these monies like it's personal
are we
property.
going to have
and
the spring debate again?
it has to come up.
Yes.
Because it's not a
absolutely.
responsibility only left to the banks. But Gbolahan, please.
I mean, absolutely what you said. What is required, of course, is a lot of enlightenment that is needed. I mean, CBN needs to do a lot more education, enlightening the public as well too, and especially the market people. When you find out that you go and buy any items and you see the way the currencies are squeezed or they're brought out of certain private areas as well too, sweaty, it's not appropriate. Money should be dealt with appropriately, should be kept properly in the appropriate places. So it makes a lot of sense. So, but you need a lot of education, you need a lot of enlightenment, just as you said as well. And the one thing that you also pointed out as well, we are talking about spraying of the currencies. I remember just a few months back as well too that the CBN governor did actually mention as well too that we were going to clamp down on those that spray currencies at parties. We haven't actually seen much of an implementation of that, at least as far as I know. I haven't heard of any arrest that has been made so far of people spending or spraying currencies outside. But it makes a lot of sense. We need to start being responsible. And just as you said, it's a collective effort from everybody. It's not only the CBN governor or the CBN or the deposit money banks. It's the money goes in circulation in different forms and it exchanges hands several times. So we all have to be more responsible with the way we handle our currencies. But let's see how the CBN is able to implement this. Let's wait and see what punitive measures that are taken on those that are erring on this offense.
One of the sanctions was put forward by, or rather announced by, the Director of Currency Operations, CBN, Mrs. Priscilla Ejeme. I think that's the same lady that we see her signature on the 1,000 naira note. Yeah? Okay. All right. Now, she said 1 million naira is going to be paid by banks if as a punitive measure if they are found wanting or culpable of their ATMs dispensing counterfeit currencies. Anyway, let's talk about this next story from the Punch newspaper. Makinde writes Ajimobi accuses his appointees of reckless action. So this is the Oyo State Governor-elect, Mr. Sheyi Makinde. On Tuesday, he wrote a letter to the outgoing governor, Abiola Ajimobi, asking him to please control some of his political appointees engaging in activities that could hamper the takeoff of the new government on May 29th. Essentially saying they're not in their best behavior at this point. Deveo.
Well, I'm going to take this story as just a lesson in opposition work. Let's forget the fact that the person writing is the governor-elect, because we would say he has an advantage in terms of he's the next man in line.
Yes.
And in politics, they would ask him to be careful because once he gets in, the same finger that he's pointing now will be pointed at him. And he's simply accusing Ajimobi and his men currently that, one, he's noticed some erratic behavior. That first of all, that the Pilgrims Board is taking actions and announcing agendas way beyond May 29th, of which they will not be able to implement, and it will be in bad faith. The new government obviously has its own volition to either carry them out or not. Secondly, he mentioned there was an instruction to local government officials to clear the which account was that? The stabilization accounts. And he said this was also in bad faith, even though it's in their capacity. But why would they be looking at clearing those accounts before the new administration comes in? Now, basically, these actions refer to Hawkeye vigilance, and that's what we are meant to be doing on a daily basis.
Yes, as individuals, as civilians, right?
Keeping, not only as civilians, opposition parties. Now, this is APC going for PDP. So expect APC now to become the major opposition in Oyo State. Here in Lagos, APC is coming in again. I expect PDP, SDP, all the people who claim that they were strong contenders for that position to keep a hawk-eye eyesight on what is going on in government, how expenses are being, well, not expenses are being spent, but how accounts are being spent, issues regarding to budget implementation, taxes, where it goes to,
transparency.
So this is a clear example of that, and It's because we don't do this. That's why they keep getting away. And obviously, in this situation, since he's not coming back again, I suspect the same thing happened in Imo State again. Because anybody who is not getting his own second tenure will be looking at a way. They call it in the corporate world, what's that umbrella?
What?
That umbrella when you jump off the parachutes.
Parachutes.
Yes, the parachute that you jump off political office with to ensure that you land very softly.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Deveo, for that apps analysis. Let's move on very quickly now. We have a few messages on WhatsApp. The number is 0809 4440981. This one's from Hussein from Aguda Suleri. He says, I believe the National Assembly will stop unnecessary politicking with the budget if their salaries and allowances are also tagged to its early passage. Nigerians must rise up and ensure that this becomes the order of the day, or does not? You meant to say, Hussein. Thank you. Biggie sent in this one. It says, no one can stop us from spraying money at parties. And it does not stop the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, from printing new notes. I've seen a Central Bank of Nigeria CBN official attend a wedding party, and the Nigerian money was sprayed on both bride and groom. He did nothing. Well, it's just one man, I guess.
All right, thank you very much for your comments. Adedumade, we've not heard your voice this morning, so let me come to you for this next one. Kidnapped UBEC chairman, daughter regained freedom. This day reports this very good news as with other dailies, but we'll take this one. The board chairman of the Universal Basic Education Commission, who was abducted with his daughter and several other travelers along the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway and by armed bandits who opened fire, is said to have been released by the abductors. Can you please tell us what happened as the detail of the report states?
Well, sometime on Monday, travelers were plying the Kaduna-Abuja road, and they were attacked by bandits, kidnappers, criminals, whatever word you'd like to use to qualify them.
Yeah.
And apparently till now, hundreds of people are still missing. But the UBEC chairman and his daughter were kidnapped. His driver was killed, and I'm sure they paid ransom. Because even in Nigeria, the police pays ransom. So
they didn't state it, but someone had a source had mentioned that ransom was paid.
They won't state it, but the truth is this: if the police can pay ransom, then
Yes.
who are citizens not to pay? So it's quite a big problem now, because over the past few months, you know, that road has become very, should I say, controversial because of all this shady.
Banditry.
I'm going to steal those two words from you. Notorious and banditry. Yes, that has been happening on that road. And it's very, very sad, because I understand that there's a high level of policing and also joint military patrols on that road. I also remember that recently the Kaduna State Governor El Rufai was able to foil a kidnapping attempt, you know, when his convoy was actually passing through that route.
So let me ask you a question from that. So following that, a number of people said, well, how come it was the governor's convoy that was saved from kidnapping when the man on the common man's kidnapping attempt isn't foiled? In this report as well, it was stated that while the UBEC chairman and his daughter were released, there's no report on the other travelers who were also affected by this. So people have asked the question that when it comes to incidences of kidnapping, offenses, is it just the rich and high and mighty who have the right to protection and swift action?
Yes, in Nigeria. Yes.
That's quite unfortunate.
Well, it's quite unfortunate. That's why we always ask Nigerians to stand up and do something about this. Look, when we all sit down and say nothing and do nothing, especially when our rights are being breached, when there's no security, when there's high levels of poverty, because if we look at this, some of these problems are caused by the high level of poverty in that area. Right. You know, and even in Nigeria generally, we are the poverty capital, and there's so much this government needs to do, which I don't think they even know how to do it, because I don't see them doing anything. So I think Nigerians need to be the one to put the government to the test. Yes, we really need to stand up and tell them to do their jobs, because really they are not doing it. And I mean that for everybody, from the top from the first man, which is the President Mohammed Buhari. You were not doing your duty by protecting Nigerians. Lives are being lost daily. People don't even know where their relatives are now. So it is very sad, and I can imagine what families are going through at this time. So please, Nigerians, we need to put our political office holders, the police, and everybody that owes us a duty of care to the test.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, can you touch on what's happened in Ibadan? As recently was reported in Vanguard that 8 were injured in another building collapse.
Yes, in fact, what I would like to point out is that the site engineer for that building collapse needs to be arrested, because apparently the people who were working on the building had seen signs that showed that the building was trying to give way, and they warned him, but he told them to continue working. Now that shows criminal liability, in my opinion, and I feel he should be arrested and prosecuted. But not just him, but even the owners of the building, because obviously it shows the culture of them trying to cut corners. So if he can be that mean in regard to saying they should continue work, I imagine what else he could have done in trying to cut corners. That means he definitely must have used substandard products, and including cement blocks and all those kind of things that were used to.
Who underpay their staff.
The story of Nigeria.
Now let's not forget that this is about the second building collapse that has happened within the space of 1 month in Ibadan.
March 15, another happened.
Have you been to Ibadan lately? Ibadan is a nightmare. It is a relic of a museum in the 1970s.
Well,
for those who come from Ibadan or pass through Ibadan, Ibadan has not had one new roof.
One new road. See that road?
For the past 20 or 30 years.
No, but wait. But that is actually exaggerating it.
You have not been to Ibadan.
New roads. I've been to Ibadan.
You don't know Ibadan is walking back in time.
I don't know what you're saying.
One house, please. One house.
You can't say there's no new roof. Like, there's no
Ibadan.
Okay, wait.
Ibadan's a museum now.
Wait. Yes, I understand that there is still a lot of development that needs to be done in Ibadan. When I go through that city, right, I pass that road that comes into the town and leaves the town. That one expressway. It has been the same. It has been the same for so many years. I believe that they need to do something. Yeah, and lastly, the Oyo State Bureau of Physical Planning and Developmental Control. I don't think those people are doing their jobs.
So they need to be checked. Someone needs to be sanctioned.
See, if the government will not sanction them, the people should march to that place and sanction them themselves.
No.
But the interesting thing is,
I'm not saying they should go and scatter the place, so I'm just saying they should go there and tell them to do their job. See, when we go to places like this in numbers and they see that we are serious about ensuring that they do their jobs, then they'll do their jobs.
Right.
Interestingly, though, it's worthy of note that the Oyo State Bureau of Physical Planning and Development Control that you cited at Adedumade had marked the building, had sealed it for demolition. But then again, enforcement is another thing we've been asking
That's what
for.
happened with Lagos Itafaji as well.
Yes.
All right.
Joseph from Lekki sends the message on WhatsApp. Says, how many of you have sprayed your salaries at an event? What's the source of that wealth? He's asking. Trevor Noah's Lapel Pin asked the question about how he said said to Deveo remark. It says the golden parachutes. That's what it's called.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep it moving.
All right, let's finally go to this story here. I tagged this one taken by D and G. That's Deveo and Gbolahan. All right. Controversy trails the arrests of women. It's a very serious story actually, of women at Abuja nightclubs. Many of us have heard this story, but Premium Times does a big report on this one about the raids of nightclubs and arrests of women in the past few weeks, raising concern, looked at provocative dressing, legality of nightclubs, and so on. So, Deveo, Gbolahan, who's going first?
I'll go first. I am miffed. I am flabbergasted. I am boiling over this story when it was brought to my attention, I think a few days ago, that in spite of all the breakdown of law and order and the reckless freedom, so to speak, that criminals, bandits, kidnappers have had in Nigeria, that they've almost lost control of them in terms of our security forces, not to talk of the insurgency, that the police, who have been in the shadows by the military because they could not take care of their job, have decided to, instead of looking at law enforcement, they're terrorizing women. Now, what happened a few days ago, the Premium Times captures it. First of all, in one location, 34 strippers were rounded up. In another location, 70 women, 77. Do you know how many buses it takes to round up 70 women.
yeah.
The police charted that. That's almost the numbers that Boko picked with Chibok girls at that time.
Yeah.
Now, they picked them up and they took them to Utako police station. Under what crime? What was the issue? They said the criteria for the arrest was, first of all, that some of the clubs were located in areas that they shouldn't have been. Secondly, that some of the clubs were hangouts for prostitutes and those who were taking hard drugs.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, everything here is wrong. Everything here is wrong. Now, if it was about hard drugs, I'm sure it's not the police that would be doing that crackdown. We have the NDLA, and they've always been doing their job dutifully. I don't see any word about them here. I don't see any statements about them that they had hard drug issues in those areas. But the main crime here is, first of all, one, in trying to break down why they went there, they said that like I said, locations where they were not meant to be. There are over 800 clubs. Abuja actually has the most developed hospitality sector in Nigeria,
And they
being
have,
the federal
but
capital.
they have complained about regular raids to these clubs. So perhaps this will bring that.
Why
up.
not hold the owners of the clubs
Yes,
to
two,
account?
it is not the police work, because these clubs and lounges and hospitality centers operate under licenses,
Yes.
meaning
So
that
it's
if they
not illegal to have
yes,
a club,
if
just
they
as that
unless they didn't have a
club.
license, that's when the regulating agency comes to play, and then the police will enforce it, not the police going on their own on normal raids to
Alright.
to do what.
So the second.
Secondly, they now claim that some of them, this is the police FCT whatever public
Shaka,
relations
yeah.
officer, Mr. Shaka, explaining all of this, that there was provocative dressing, that some of them were dressed provocatively, they were half nude.
Just to ask a quick question, I know there's a lawyer in the house. Is provocative dressing
A crime?
Is it a crime in Nigeria?
It depends on where you are.
Okay.
Basically.
And can you just break down just very short?
I'm sorry. Very
No,
quick question.
Abuja-
This is an ignorant question, guys. Excuse me. What defines provocative dressing that's worn by a commercial sex worker or a stripper?
No, not even by
What
commercial sex
constitutes that?
worker. You cannot even begin to discuss it. This is a how do I call it? A democracy.
Yeah,
we
but
have
to understand-
we have
hold on,
rights.
Deveo, hold on. I want Adedumade to explain to us in what circumstances is provocative dressing considered as a crime? Just
It
so
is
that we
never-
understand.
Now, when I
Indecency.
mean it is based on indecency.
Okay.
Now, what is a crime in some places, especially in a place like Lagos, is indecent behavior
Okay.
and indecent actions. So if I go somewhere and I do something indecent, like maybe I expose my private parts,
Yeah.
now that is indecent.
Okay.
That the person that does that can be picked up for that.
Alright.
But when you're talking about just wearing a short skirt, wearing maybe a half top, or wear something that is revealing, that is not a crime in
Case in
itself.
point, I remember when, and I say this very with respect, Omoni Oboli, the day she
Right.
premiered her movie in Aso Rock, beside the president,
Yeah, she had this.
her outfit, and I'm surprised they didn't pick her up in Aso Rock.
Exactly.
No, it's selective now. Like I said, in Nigeria, okay? Nigeria is not a Sharia nation. Therefore, we operate under laws. Now, indecent dressing is in public areas. These are inside clubs. They went into the clubs and picked up these women,
In a
okay?
confined space where they
In a
are
confined space. I mean,
licensed
this is complete violation of their rights.
All right, then let's move on very quickly.
Now,
I want to
secondly,
touch on the other thing.
Secondly, they mentioned on why the focus on women, because
Yeah.
some people have been reacting,
Yes.
some right activists, that they don't pick up the men.
Okay.
Why aren't the men accused of being indecent?
Yeah.
Secondly, the law speaks about underage. This was not the issue of underage commercial sex working. Secondly, the issue of prostitution. Now, but the debate goes on back and forth. Is prostitution illegal or not?
Yes,
Now,
that
we
was the
understand
argument.
that prostitution only refers to when the solicitation takes place with underage people. Now, between consenting adults, where lies the crime? Between consenting adults, how do you want to prove it?
All right.
That
Thank you very
so
much.
where
I need Gbolahan to say something very quickly. Deveo, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to add to what he said just briefly. It's still the problem that we have in the country when we're talking about institutions and the reforms that need to take place in the police as well. I mean, you just cannot have a society. This is what we talk about, social injustice, anyway, where women will be picked up for no reason. And then you would have the people in the high-ranking police officers try to justify this as well. And I mean, I'll make reference to just one point by
Ayo Shogun.
Ayo Shogun, who has actually just said that, prostitution is a sin under two main religions. We're not talking about, there's so many people that are of different religious faith in Nigeria. So you cannot go and tell us now that
two religions recommend, etc. That is
They're-
BS
Is
of the
it
highest
the
level.
duty of
No,
the police
Nigerians,
to police
we've got to be
more?
careful
Right,
because
thank you
we're
very
allowing
much.
our rights to be trampled
Thank
upon.
you, and I'm glad that we really highlighted
Our women are
this.
important.
Thank
Alright.
you very much.
We only have
take
time to
some-
take
Jesus.
messages before we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Devo. Just calm down a little bit.
No, this is
Just 1 second.
it's
Devo.
getting insane.
All right, thank you. So now somebody's Hussein is saying, well, what do you say to the workers of the site? Speaking to the Ibadan building collapse, the workers at the site of the collapsed building, when they see with their two eyes that the building is giving way. And Ike here says the building agency in Oyo was more interested in demolishing radio stations airing opposing viewpoints. Ian says, Devo, God bless you. Police hypocrites. They have power only when harmless, unarmed civilians and women are. They are all hypocrites. He says all of them. They're okay. It goes on and on in the tirade. But Dozier says the best approach is to solve a problem. In solving the problem is to uproot it from its roots. The rate of childbirth in the north will, with no proper planning to feed the children properly and send them to school, is gradually snowballing to the security issues we can all see now. If the child production by every Tom and Harry is not curbed, then the supply chain to banditry and terrorism is rife and running. And more messages here.
And says, tell the role to cool down. If you have a club that is registered, does not mean you violate the law. I know most of these clubs and many illegal things go on there. Good morning, my man crush Adedumade cannot do anything indecent, please. I'm really wondering what exactly do the police, please? Are they style, please, or law and order, please? Noni.
All right, Emma here sends in the final message for Smooth Breakfast, freshly pressed 91 here. He said, I guess we should start wearing 3-piece suits to clubs. I guess that could be a new
And
time
holding a
trend.
Bible.
Special thanks to our analysts for stepping in this morning to analyze the stories. Gbolahan is at Mr. G Quest on Twitter. Adedumade is at Adedumade. And the very calm Deveo is at Deveo Okorie. And thank you to all those who sent in messages on YouTube. We do not have enough time to go through them. But join us next as we talk sports inside of the locker room. Good morning.
The headlines.
Sure, it will be your 9 o'clock story.